What is up, historians? And thank you for tuning in to Rant episode 32, a historic podcast. We specialize in everything historic, including historic brawl. We are the Dorks, and I'm your host tonight, Hoshi. And I was able to break out of the Scientology prison to be here with you tonight. Don't worry, Tom. I'm coming back for you.
Oh, no.
And, as always, we are joined by a man who fills his deck with nothing but counter spells. Oh, yes, he is that man. You know him as Little Kitty Meow Meow himself, DrunkenDork.
Meow Meow. You know what? It's funny you say that. When we get into the decks we've been playing this week, you are not wrong at all. You are not wrong. I like it, though. Yeah. Yes. Little Kitty Meow Meow man.
I knew it. Precognition. I knew it.
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And you might notice tonight, our other co-host, Apollo, he couldn't be here with us this week. So is due to a training accident, actually. As some of you may know who watch the show, Apollo, he's been talking about how he's getting ready for the Air Force.
I am in training. I've been doing real good on my training.
And I got a call from the medic that I knew, and he said while he was improperly performing a deadlift, apparently he screamed, had an accident in his pants, blew out his O-ring and passed out. So, yeah.
What does that mean, blew out his O-ring?
Oh, okay.
Let's dive into this. What is this?
I mean, I didn't want to get too much into it, but apparently he screamed. He then shat his pants, and then he got, the medical term for it is, I can't remember what it's called, but it's a pink sock. It's one of these deals. Yeah, don't look that up. No one who's listening, don't look that up. It's brutal. Yeah, that's some brutal stuff. Yeah, and then he fell out and face plant. So he's in recovery. And the poor guy, he's had a rough year on his anus. His poor anus has just taken a lot of punishment this year. So
sad story.
Yeah,
really.
We here at the Dorks wish Apollo a quick recovery, and I hope everyone else out there does as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anywho, we follow the phases of magic here at the Mana Rant, and what that means is our show's format follows every stage of Magic the Gathering, okay? And with our main topics of the night being our main phases, okay? So we did a little change around this week. Normally we have the horseshit card game as main phase 2, but we felt like it was more appropriate to have that as combat now, and then have our main subjects be our two main phases. So we'll do a quick breakdown of what we're going over tonight. We'll start off with the Reddit rant on our Upkeep, and then we'll go into the draw phase where we talk about some decks we're playing real quick this week. And then our main phase tonight is going to be about the mana building your mana base, okay, and what some pros think and how we do it in historic. So then we're going to go into the horseshit card game for combat, and then main phase 2, we're going to talk about commander and whether that makes you a better or worse 1v1 player and what we think about that. Then after that, we're going to go into our end step where we might talk about some other nerdy stuff we do outside the game, and then we finish it off by pounding the drinks that we drink tonight. And so the first phase that we always start off with in here is Untap. And in our Untap phase, we crack a drink. So let's start it off.
Nice. Oh, and he's back with his Glenlivet.
Yeah. Not tonight, no. Let's start off with you.
Johnny Walker. Is that what that is?
Oh yeah. This is since we're on me, I guess already. This is Johnny Walker Green Label. I have not had Green Label before. I drink black most of the time. I've had red, which is terrible. And then I've had Blue Label occasionally. I've never owned it, but I've had it at a couple places. And Blue Label is very good. And this is in between black and blue label. So it's a 15 year, sorry. Johnny
dang.
Walker. Yeah, this one's, I think blue label's like 18 or 20 or something like that. So
Oh my God, that sounds expensive.
It is. It's like $200 a bottle. So this is not. I got this on sale and I was pretty stoked. So I'm excited to try this one. What about you? What are you having?
I just got an IPA. Nothing exciting at all. I already cracked it because I was totally just wanted to get this shit in my mouth, and start drinking it.
Yeah, normally we open our drink during the Untap phase, but somebody broke protocol tonight.
Yeah, I'm rude.
Kitty meow, kitty meow meow. How dare you?
Yeah. Whatever, man. Well, anyway,
nice.
cheers.
Anywho, cheers, brother.
Sweet.
Oh yeah, that's good. Pretty smooth. Not as smoky as some of the Johnny Walkers. Anyways, and cheers to all of you out there as well.
Yeah.
All right. So, our next phase, we're going to move into our upkeep. And so our upkeep is going to be Reddit Rant this week. And so Reddit Rant is where I look through the internet for people ranting about Magic the Gathering. Magic the Gathering is a game that evokes a lot of emotions in people, especially in me, as my girlfriend can attest to from me screaming in my computer room while I'm playing Arena. I look throughout the internet for people that scream their thoughts into the internet, unlike me, which screams them into my computer desk. And I think I found a pretty good one this night. And this is a weird coincidence because it is somebody who you were on his podcast, actually. DrunkenDork. You and Apollo were on the podcast. I couldn't be there for it. But Matt Provins. And what was the name of that podcast again?
Man, I don't have it in front of me. I am a terrible person.
Cryptic Commander.
There you go.
Cryptic Commander.
Yeah.
That's it. That's right. They do a podcast. I think theirs is more like financial based, right?
Theirs is like all over, I think,
Okay.
Magic. They're not specific about any format or anything. They do some finance stuff. They do some basic Magic talk. And yeah, it's a fun podcast, though.
Great. Well, this is completely ironic that he was, I didn't even know that at the time when I stumbled across this, but Matt has a great rant that he goes into this week, and I'll start off. So, I hate Scourge of the Skyclaves, not because it's OP, not because my deck lost to it, not because of power creep or anything like that. I hate it because it's fucking lame, man. Like, seriously, regardless of my feelings on the deck, Death Shadows has got to be one of the most flavorful cards in the game. The fear of death, the ever-growing presence in one's mind as one grows weaker, the fact that it's nothing when you're confident, but all-consuming when you're down, 13 as an unlucky omen, the nice flavor text, etc. Yeah, very deep there. The fuck is Scourge of the Skyclave? What even is the Skyclave? I don't read the MTG novels, but I can see it doesn't even fly. That's true. That doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have flavor text. It could be called literally anything. The art is just some humanoid, just not suggestion that it grows. It's like clearly just a card that they shit out as a copy of DS. I think Death Shadows is what he's talking about, to go into a DS deck. Ugh. Anyways, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. That was the Mana Rant from Matt there this week. What'd you think of that one, Butler?
Drunken? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good one. This guy's he's letting out his frustration with all the fucking bullshit that Magic has been just throwing out there. Like, what will sell packs? I know what will sell packs. Scourge of the Skyclaves, or Death Shadows. Scourge of the Skyclaves.
Yeah.
It basically is like, it's almost the same card. Yeah, I saw a lot of this when it first got announced, and it's a fucking sweet ass card. I really like this card. It doesn't do shit in Historic. You know, like you do see it sometimes, but it's just people trying to make it work type of thing. We don't have enough great cards in Historic to make this like viable, but
Yeah.
super sweet card. And yeah, man, I get it. You know, it's all right to rant about this.
No, totally. I mean, yeah, I'm not making fun of Matt at all here. I love that he has a great rant about this. It's so random too, because Scourge of the Skyclave is one of those cards, I guess, just for us in Arena, to where we never really see it around. You know, I see it in Saktos every once in a while, but
yeah.
So I, like, immediately this just hit me. I was like, wait, what? I hate Scourge of the Skyclaves. You have my attention. You know, what?
Right?
So random. Such a random thing to rant about. I love it though, because I definitely hate weird random cards. So I thought this was just a great random rant about a card. And I mean, Magic has been doing this throughout history, where they just, you know, they have like a couple cards that kind of go on with whatever the lore is, and then just a bunch of like random nonsense in there.
Yeah.
But this one really got to him, I guess, because it copied a better card in Magic history is what I'm taking away from it.
Yeah, it's like, you know, it's used in, like I said, in more eternal formats. Like it's used in Modern and Legacy, I believe, maybe even Vintage, I don't know. And yeah, and it is a good card. It's just, yeah, like everything about it is generic as fuck. And is it a mythic?
I don't know. It might be. I know it's rare. So if no one knows what this card is, it's I know it's a demon, and it's toughness and power are equal to 20 minus your opponent's highest life total, or whatever. So I mean, this thing can either die immediately when it enters the battlefield, or if your opponent has like 2 life, then it's an 18/18.
It's real bad in the meta right now.
For 2 mana. Yeah, with all the life gain and stuff.
Yeah, with all the life gain stuff. Yeah. It's just like life gain's like one of the top decks. There's no way. It's way high. It's better than Saktos and best of 1 for sure. Like maybe in a best of 3 format, this would perform a lot better. But yeah. And I remember when you said this, I was like, what the fuck is this card? I don't even remember. And then you said, I was like, oh yeah, dude. I was like I totally wanted to build a deck around this when it got announced, but then I think I did, and it just didn't work at all. So
no, yeah. The Skyclaves are these like floating rocks up in Zendikar, which is where this is from. And so why is it not flying? If it's up in the Skyclave and it's like hanging on these rocks, how does it get anywhere if it's not flying? Right? There's so many of these Skyclave cards that make no sense. Where you're like, what? Are they just stuck on that floating rock somewhere? Okay. Yeah, I get it.
Maybe
all right.
He grows exponentially. Like maybe that's it. When your life total's real low, he like becomes massive.
You're reaching deep on this one.
I don't know what the fuck. I'm just coming up with shit.
Okay, I'm starting to get the frustration here. Yeah, and the more I talk about it, I'm like, fuck this card. This is so stupid. Come on, Wizards, you can do a better job. You guys have like an actual staff for this, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, that Matt, they have a podcast called the Cryptic Commander, where they talk about all the news and stuff with MTG, and it was a cool podcast when I listened to it when you guys were on. And so if anyone wants to check it out, I mean, it was great that they had us on. It'd be great to have them on our podcast, or someone else too at some time. But anyways, that was our Reddit rant. If you guys have a card that pisses you off randomly, or you find anyone else ranting about anything on the internet, feel free to send it my way. I love to read that stuff, and maybe I'll read it out on the show. All right, so that was our upkeep. And now we're going to move into our draw phase. And our draw phase is where we talk about what decks we've been playing this week, or what Magic formats we've been playing this week. So we'll start off with DrunkenDork. What have you been playing?
Man, over the weekend I didn't really play anything because I was just burnt out from like editing and shit, and like fucking playing a crap ton of Historic Brawl. It was really fun though.
Oh yeah.
But like after Historic Brawl went away, one thing I wish Historic Brawl had was a sideboard. I wish that you could do that in Historic Brawl, but that's a whole nother topic. After that I built a Esper flash deck, which I've done before like multiple times, like a tempo style mid-range deck. And It has a crap ton of counter spells, like you said earlier, along with a lot of removal and a lot of flash creatures that just do good stuff. Like especially with that new flash, a white creature that exiles something that's attacking. Like the deck performs really well. I got up to I got what's right after gold. It's platinum.
Platinum.
Yeah. I got up to platinum in no time just using that deck.
Nice.
And so it performed pretty well. I've been considering making a deck tech on it, but I think I need to change a few things before I actually do something like that.
Nice.
And then today I built a red-white equipment deck that's just super fun. It's a big pile of trash, really.
Yeah.
It's just about getting out that massive 10-10 hammer.
Yeah.
And like equipping it on my it's super janky. And equipping it on my guy, but like it has been like I've been killing people so consistently with it.
Awesome.
I'm just on one of those high streaks in Arena right now where it's just like handing me everything I want right when I want it. You know, and I know as soon as I go to record something, a fucking pile of trash like that is just going to be like, nope, now it's time to lose every game because that's what you deserve because this deck sucks. But that's what I've been doing. And it's been a lot of fun.
Nice. Let the jank flow through you.
Okay. Relax there.
So sorry. So wait, what was your favorite brawl deck that you played through the event?
Played with?
Yeah, what was your favorite one?
I think honestly, I just really like the Aura deck. I think that is my favorite one. It's I take out the budget lands and I put in like a real Manabase.
Yeah.
And it just performs that much better, along with a few more rare cards, like Authority of the Consuls and stuff like that. And the deck is just it just is really good.
Nice.
That's
awesome, man. Well, for me, I also was playing the Historic Brawl event a lot. We got some good games in there before the week before, getting ready for it. And then I threw together a deck that I ended up just absolutely loving. I didn't get a chance to make a video on it during it, but it was the Poison deck with the Finn, the Fangbearer, which I was skeptical about because I didn't think there was enough poison cards really to make it work. But you pad out the rest of it with Proliferate, which can proliferate the poison counters on your opponent, and man, it was working great. I was killing people like crazy with that deck. It was odd how consistent it was, because I mean, all you need to do is at least have like one or two poison creature or death touch creatures in your hand, and then you have Finn on turn 2 every time, so you're already getting counters on there. So if the game goes on, you just proliferate the poison counters and boom, they die. It's it was great. I had a lot of fun. That turned out to be my favorite deck that I played with. And then I've been playing my weird Crater Hoof Behemoth deck that I've been messing around with, and it turned out great. I added Mystic Reflection to it, and which is just a great card all around.
What is that one again? I forget.
So it's whenever the next creature enters the battlefield this turn, creature or planeswalker enters the battlefield this turn, you can have it enter as a copy of a target non-legendary creature that's on the battlefield right now. And so I run tokens in that deck because I'm doing the like whole Crater Hoof like transmogrify thing where I pull them out of my deck. So I'm using Mystic Reflection as kind of like mainly a defense card. So when someone casts something crazy like Ugin that will blow me out, I do Mystic Reflection and then have their Ugin enter as a 1/1 token or something like that, which is it's not as good as a counter spell, I guess, but at the same time it is so much more hilarious to because they're like, what the shit, what just happened? Why is my Ugin a 1/1, you know? And I love it. It's been performing hit or miss. I've had some rough games this week, like you guys were talking about in your salty podcast last week. So I had some pretty salty games.
Cast,
So I had some salty games this week too, and so I switched to Dimir, and like just my, like I call it my Dimir fuck you deck, where it's basically just all counters and kill spells, and then Ashiok as like a win condition. You know, it's awful to play against, but it's like whenever I just get filled with hate and bile, you know, for the game, I'm like, I'm picking this deck now. I'm gonna make someone else feel my pain.
Nice.
and I couldn't lose with it. It was ridiculous. I went like undefeated for like 10 games. I think I lost one, and I barely lost it. It was, and I didn't actually kill anyone. It was all rage quits. So I think this moral of the story that I learned was I was trying to play fun decks, and Arena denied me those. And then I played a deck that made people sad, and then Arena was like, "This will do. This will do."
Hey, that's Magic.
Yeah. Magic's like, this is not Magic the Gathering unless someone is like super pissed. So yeah. I was supplying the pissed offness, and so Magic was fine with that. It was like, okay, you may win again. So that's what I did this week, anyways.
Sweet, sounds good.
All right, so that was our draw phase, and now we're going to move into one of our main topics this week with our main phase. And our main phase this week, we're going to be talking about building mana bases for our historic decks. And so Drunken found some really cool articles that some pros were talking about that he was diving into. And so I think we're going to start off with Drunken just explaining what they were talking about and how we kind of build our own decks, or at least as far as mana base goes. So take it away, Drunken.
Yeah, so first I want to start with talking about this because, like, when building a deck, I feel like often, me and Hoshi are constantly building new decks. I know that for a fact.
Definitely.
And when building a deck, I feel like a lot of people, what they do is they put all of their spells in first, or their synergy, or what they're trying to accomplish. And then they fit the lands in there to make their spells and synergies or whatever the fuck they're trying to do work. Whereas, like, from reading these articles and just playing for a long time, because I am guilty of that too, for sure. Like, you actually need to build both at the same time. Like, it's good to look at, while putting spells in, to look at like what mana base you have available to you, and that's really important with Arena, because unless you have every land in Arena, it becomes a lot harder, right? Because it costs wild cards or money or however you want to look at it. And so I read 2 articles this week. One was by Reed Duke, it from 2014. It's old, but the thing about Manabase is mana really hasn't changed a whole lot since then. Maybe like whatever the new Mulligan rule does help mana bases. And then the other one is from Frank Carson back in 2018. And
oh wow!
So yeah, so they're both fairly old. But basically what I got out of this, so if you go to the bottom where our show notes is, I'm going to have both of these, or Hoshi will probably put both of these articles in there, right?
Yeah,
and,
definitely.
And I really like them both, because Reed Dukes, it breaks it down with a pie chart, like, and it shows decks and like why they work and why they don't work. And this other guy, Frank Carson, he actually has like what are these, like, charts here with like percentages of how often you'll be able to cast spells based on how much mana you have in and what the converted mana costs. And like, so if it's a 1 red spell versus a 2 red spell, like what is the likelihood if you're splashing, for colors and stuff like that. So I'm gonna start it off with actually tap lands.
Okay.
Because unless you have anything to add before then.
No, this is great. I mean, I'm looking through it right now, and it looks like he's trying to hit a sweet spot of like around 92% of having that in your deck as a mana source, like being able to get it 92% of the time, at least in a game. It looks like that's kind of his sweet spot that they're going for. But yeah, no, go on.
Yeah, no, actually, yeah, that's a great point. Yeah. And I'm glad you actually brought that up, because I'm going to backtrack there for a second. Yeah, so basically what he's saying is, that is a sweet spot. And what he really references in this article is like, like say you have a 3-color mid-range deck, and turn 1, you have 3 lands, a spell that's 1 single green, say it's a green, black, red deck. We'll say it's Jund. All right, you have 3 lands, you have 1 spell that's 1 green mana, and then you have 1 spell that's a black, a red, and a colorless, and we'll ignore the other spells. And your 3 lands, none of them have green. Now, is that a keepable hand? Like what he says in this article is, yeah, it is, because the impact of something like of having your 1 cost thing come out on turn 1 isn't as big as the impact that a 3 cost thing comes out on turn 3, because almost always something that costs 3 or something that costs more is going to have a bigger impact on the game, so you want it to come out the turn that it comes out, which is this perfect segue to tap lands, which is where I was going with this is so like, I hope this doesn't sound too convoluted. So basically the way they broke down tap lands and putting them in decks is, like everyone knows, you almost never want any tap lands in any aggro deck. And like, so that's reduced when it goes to mid-range. Like, you want to put a minimal amount of tap lands in a mid-range deck. And then control decks, what I read here, which makes a lot of sense, and which I'm sure you think about when you're building. I don't know how often you build control decks, Hoshi, but when I'm building them, I do think about the meta, and it is meta dependent. And it's like, you really get this through trial and error, right? Like right now, the meta is in best of 1 is hyper aggro. Much, right? For sure. So you kind of want to minimize putting in tap lands. That's why you don't see Esper control and you just see blue-white control, because you can only have like 1 or 2 tap lands in blue-white control, and you don't have to worry about shocking as much. You don't have to worry about like losing all that life. And basically what it's saying is like back to like getting your spells out at like turn 3, turn 4. Say you draw into a tap land on turn 3 or turn 4, that could actually just lose you the game. Yeah, definitely. If you're playing control. So when you're doing these types of things, like, you really have to put all that thought into it. It's not about just having your, like, we'll say Azorius. It's not about just having a lot of blue and a lot of white pips. It's about having the right type of blue and white pips. And the way I'm going to break this down is I'm going to put, or Hoshi's going to put 3 decks in the show notes. And we already have it in there. And I'm going to break out like what I think a great example of building a really good mana base is. So if anyone's been playing Historic recently and they've been playing Best of 1, Selesnya Life Gain is a super bizarre deck. I made a whole video on it. You can go watch it.
It's really good.
It's super bizarre because it is a mono white deck, splash green for Collected Company. That's it. And splash green, splash anything is not common in Constructed. Splash in what is it? What's that other style of playing?
You're talking drafting about drafting. Limited. Splashing and limited is really common. Like, I do it all the time when I play draft. Definitely. But in Constructed, you don't generally want to do this because you want to be as consistent as possible. But this is why I have this, because the mana base in Historic, it kind of, the way this is built, it shows you perfectly like how well you can splash right now, and like how well something like this can work. So if you look at the deck, if you pull it up while I'm talking, you'll see that it's just all white creatures, all white enchantments, all white creatures, and then 4 Collected Company. And if you look at the mana base, it's all white lands, except Temple Garden, it has a forest attached to it. Sunpetal Grove, it has a forest attached to it. And then Branchloft Pathways, or whatever the opposite version of it, it has an island or a forest attached to it. So the pathways,
So yeah, this is like a perfect example of like how to build a mana base, because you want to be able to get your turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, because this is a hyper aggro deck. You want to be able to get them out on turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, and this mana base, taking variance out of it will get you there every single time. Taking variance out meaning like you're not going to get a no lander or like a one lander or something like that.
I will tell you about the variance that I get in a deck like this, which is where you draw 3 sun petal growths, right? And you're like how I get all tap land, like the which are buddy lands. The sun petal growths is what I'm talking about, where they're dependent upon having a like forest or a plains, and if you have those, then it comes in untap. But if you don't have them, then they're tapped. So getting the like just exclusively those in your opening hand is so painful in a deck like this. You're like, how? Arena.
No, it happens to me all the time too. That's like a whole other like stipulation that needs to be added in here, is just like the arena fuck, right? Because it happens to everyone. It's like I can go play paper Magic like every week, and I'm gonna get screwed sometimes. It's gonna happen. But I feel like on arena it just happens way more often. I don't know what. Maybe it's because I'm playing more games, but like. It's just like, I get Sun Petal Grove to the end, or I get mana flooded like every other game. I'm like, this is not how it works. But I don't want to get too salty, right? I'm trying not to go down that path. So, so where I left off. So that was tap lands. This is like a perfect deck. Not a single tap land in here except for the Sun Petal Grove, which is a pseudo tap land. And after that, I wanted to go into sack lands. Why sack lands are good, why sack lands are bad, where they work, where they don't work. So in Historic right now, we pretty much only have Fable Passage, or whatever the really shitty one is, the one that enters tapped.
Oh, you're talking about like Terramorphic Expanse.
Yeah, Terramorphic Expanse.
Yeah, there's another one too. Yeah.
So one interesting thing I got out of this article, these articles, and they both reference it, is that whenever I put in Fabled Passage, I'm like, okay, this is like 3 colors of lands, right? Because like if I have a tricolor deck, well, no, in actuality, it's not. It only counts as 1 color source, because once it enters, say it's your turn 1 play and you sack it, you can only fetch 1 color, right? So like you're in your opening hand, it's like one of the worst cards you can draw. So that's why whenever you build a deck using Fabled Passage, you should always count this as a single color, which is super important. And I read, through reading both these articles, these modal duels weren't out yet, but they kind of work the same way, is what I'm getting out of it. Is like if you're putting these in your deck, you're running 4 of them, you should actually only count them as 1 source of mana, because if it's in your opening hand, the potential of there's no potential of it becoming 2 colors. It's just 1 color once you play it. It's just versatile when it's your 3rd or 4th land or something like that. That's when it becomes a really good land.
Yeah, that's true. And my thought on those too is like I've gotten those in my opening hand, and then you have to play a guessing game a lot of the times too, when you're thinking about your hand, and maybe you have a couple like a dual. You have a card that requires 2 forests, and you have a card that requires 2 plains, and you're like, do I play this as a plains or a forest? Am I going to draw a forest? Am I going to draw a plains? So like you kind of have to gamble on what side you're going to put it on earlier on. It's much better to draw those cards later in the game when you already have a mana base to make that decision with. Yeah, they're tricky. I totally agree with them being 1 mana source as a count.
Yeah, so I'm going to reference another deck for this. So I'm going to reference the Gruul deck, which everyone also has probably seen. It is literally the top deck in the meta, and in Best of 1. And so this is a perfect example of how this card doesn't work. So this happens to me just like the Sun Petal Grove. There's so often I get Crag Crown Pathway and Rootbound Crag. Like I get those 2 cards as my opening hand.
Yes.
And so I'm like, well, fuck. I have 2 lands. I have a bunch of 1 and 2 drops. This is like actually really where I want to be with this deck. But, you know, I don't want the Crag Crown Pathways to be, you know, to be a forest necessarily or a mountain. So like, it's really like the Sophie's Choice. Do I want the dual land first and it comes in tapped and slow my game plan down? Or do I want to potentially screw myself later and not have the dual red for Embercleave or something like that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's really like why I got this out of reading these articles, like why Fabled Passage is only good to count as 1 land and why these pathways are only good to count as 1 land, because really potentially they only do that, right? Like once they're out on the battlefield.
But I think that's a good point that you mentioned with that scenario too, right? Where you have the Crag pathway, you have the dual moto pathway, right? And then you have the buddy land, and you have a bunch of 2 drops and 1 drops, right? And the Gruul deck. Which one do you want to play first? Do you want to gamble that you're going to put the pathway down first, and then you can get your 1 drop on the field? But you're hoping maybe on the next turn you draw a forest or a mountain so that you can also get your 2 play. But most likely you're going to get screwed and you're not going to draw that.
Yeah.
And then your land's going to come in tapped, and then you miss out on your turn 2 play. And so I think the better play there every time is to wait for the 2 drop, like you were mentioning, because a 2 drop is going to be more impactful than the 1 drop is going to be. So maybe just putting that Rootbound Crag down tapped on turn 1 and then getting that turn 2 play off is the better play, which I think it is now that you mentioned that before, because I've struggled with that decision before as well. And I think you're right. I think that's going to be the better play every time, is the more impactful play on turn 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's why I was going to actually run you through a scenario.
Okay.
So, let's say you have a Crag Crown Pathway, a Rootbound Crag, 2 Burning Tree Emissaries, that's 4 cards.
Yeah.
A Pelt Collector, a Llanowar Elves.
Yeah.
And a Scavenging Ooze. So this is what you draw. All right, this is your opening hand. A fucking great hand. It's like every hand you get with Gruul. This is why this deck is so good, dude. It's really hard to go wrong with this deck.
Yeah, definitely.
So you have all those cards. So you have your land. You have your Llanowar Elf. That means turn 2 you can get out all that stuff if they don't kill you.
Yeah.
What would you do?
I mean, the thing is, you want the Pelt Collector down, right? Because you can grow it on turn 2 potentially with the Burning Tree Emissary, right? So that's the ideal, is that you can get that down on turn 1, or you get the or better, you get the the Llanowar Elf down, so that you can potentially have more mana on the next turn. Now that you mention it, I think I would hold off, which sucks because it really weakens your turn 2 play, where you then are forced to drop Burning Tree, right? And then you have another 2 mana pip. Where do I play Scavenging Ooze, which is a card that I usually like to hold on to, because I feel like Scavenging Ooze is a lightning bolt for removal, and it is super clutch against certain decks like Sakdos or something like that. Yeah, Scavenging Ooze is worth its weight in gold, and I want that card to come down when I have mana to utilize it. So I like to hold on to that. So that pip from Burning Tree will give me a red and a green, right? That means I can only play either Pelt Collector or the Llanowar Elf because of that stupid red mana. It stops me from being able to play those. So Scavenging Ooze would be the better use of mana, but I think in long term it's better to hold on to that and maybe do something like Pelt Collector that turn, or depending on if I have some other big plays, maybe Llanowar Elves. But yeah, nothing is a good scenario in that. It's not a perfect hand, obviously. That's what I would go with. I don't know. What about you?
I mean, I honestly, even though I said it before, I think in this scenario, I would take the risk and I would Llanowar Elf turn 1, put out the pathway, and then hope and pray that I draw my land turn 2, but say I don't, then that means turn 3 I can...
Or your Llanowar Elf gets bolted during
that
your opponent's turn, and then you're totally screwed.
Yeah, and this happens all the time, you know? Like, I would be taking a big risk, but I would do that. But, you know, like, had I not had the Llanowar Elf in my hand, I would, for sure, wait till turn 2 and just cast the Burning Tree. I think that would be the way better play. I think the Llanowar Elf would just throw me off because, you know, it does count as mana. It's just removable mana, right? It's not usable the moment you play either.
Yeah, it's true.
But it does count as a mana source. So I think ramping out is always good. But I'm not saying that's the right play. It's just the play I would make. I also have been playing this deck a lot recently, and it's just so fucking powerful. Like, I can't get tired of it. And then,
crazy.
I want to talk about one more deck that I pulled off. So these are all decks, FYI, that I pulled off of, what is it, Arena Helper? What is that thing called?
MTG Helper, or is that it?
Yeah.
Or MTG Assistant?
MTG Assistant, I say fucking Helper every single time. So these are all the top decks I pulled off of MTG Assistant.
Assistant's kind of Helper. Yeah.
It is a helper. I mean, it helps you draft. I'm a terrible drafter, so it helps me draft every time. And then the last one I pulled off was Jun Sack in Best of One.
Okay.
And this is a really good deck, right? And basically just pulls off, like, it puts a top version of these decks in there. So that's what it lists.
Gotcha.
And the most played versions. And I actually looked at this deck, and I think the mana base is bad. Like, I'm not saying the deck is bad. I just think the mana base is bad. And, like, reading these 2 articles, it doesn't make me a fucking professional by any means, but it, like, makes me reconsider, like, how I would build this if I was going to do it.
Okay.
And it has 0 basic lands. It is a 3-color deck, so that's not necessarily uncommon. But, like, what really throws me off here is, so it has its most consistent color in this deck is black, and it only has so it has, like, a lot of what are these, shock lands in here, but it doesn't have any basic swamps. It doesn't have any sack lands. It doesn't have Fabled Passage, which one thing I was reading is if a land adds like a bonus to the way you play, then you should be using it.
With Mayhem Devil, why not, right?
Yes, exactly.
That's
so,
weird,
like,
that this is the top one that people are not playing it with that. What?
Yeah, I think this needs to change for sure. It does have Phyrexian Tower, which is good. It has 1 copy.
Okay.
But, like, these Crag Crown Pathways, I would just take these 2 out because you don't need them. You don't need a turn 1 red or green spell, so you just don't need either of these.
Yeah.
You know, we're, like, having...
Well, they have the fast lands, too. They have the Bloom March, which are the ones that they come in untapped if you have... 2 or less lands, so there's fast lands in here too, which is
I take all 4 of these out.
Okay, yeah.
Take all 4 of these out, put in 2 of the Fabled Passage and maybe 2 Swamp, and I think this would be a significantly, better mana base, I think.
I think so too. Also, these kind of mana bases get super punished by things that have land destruction, and there's a lot of decks that do run that, where they'll destroy a non-basic land, and then you can search your library for a basic land. What's the name of that? Field of Ruin. Right? Like something like Field of Ruin. And there are decks that can recur Field of Ruin pretty easily too. So like this deck just gets destroyed by that. Having 0 basic lands in your deck is never a great idea.
I agree completely.
So okay.
It's not just that, and there's other spells in the format too. Like, what's that one where it exiles all attacking creatures, but you can go search for lands?
Settle the Wreckage.
Yeah, that's a sweet card. I use it in decks. I see people use it in decks. It's an incredibly good card, and it's even better when you play against people using decks like this with 0 basic lands, right? Because then you just screw them super hard.
That's true.
So yeah, like I pulled this deck out only for that reason, because I was looking through all the top decks through MTG Assistant in best of one specifically, and this just looked, I don't know, it just looked bad to me. I'm not saying it doesn't work. It seems like it could get tuned and be a little bit better.
I think so.
But yeah, that is literally all I have to say about it. Do you have anything to add?
Okay, so I was going to get into like how we do ours, but we've been kind of running a little long on this one. So I think really is more I just do a little bit of tuning with mine. Is I start off with, like, I kind of build the deck and then I change the mana base around it, which I think is what you do too. And the pros were saying that they build the mana base as they go when they're thinking about it with the deck. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about some points that we thought about it too, but maybe we talk about that next week, just since we're going a little bit long. And I think we can really get into how we build our decks and how we choose our CMCs and all that when we do it. If people want to hear that. If they want to hear about how we actually decide our mana base and whether the mana base makes an actual outcome on how I choose cards for the deck. And I think it does a lot. Okay, cool. Well, that was our main phase. Okay, and now after our main phase, we are going to move into our combat phase. And our combat phase for the first week ever is going to be the horseshit card game. Drunken, take it away.
Ooh, yeah. So I've been on a fucking winning streak, man.
Yeah,
I have been winning them back to back recently. And I don't think this week's going to be any different. So this week I'm opening Eldritch Moon, which is a super sweet set. Do you not remember this set?
No.
Eldritch Moon? This is Eldrazi and stuff. This is like
the same. Yeah, I wasn't playing during this set.
Okay. I went to Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con, when the set was out, and
nice.
There was a sealed event there called Buy a Box Sealed, and you buy a box and you open the whole thing and you make a seal deck out of it. It was super crazy.
That is
super
nuts.
Fun. Yeah, it was a blast.
That's crazy. Comic-Con got canceled basically for the second year in a row.
Yeah.
This year.
I mean, that's not surprising.
I mean, it makes sense. It's just crazy and sad in a way. I mean, I haven't been to Comic-Con since I lived in San Diego, but man, I would love to go back. It's such a fun time there. It's so crazy. The entire gas lamp district of San Diego is just completely overrun by that event. It's such a crazy fun time if you haven't been there. It's
nothing but bad body odor and but no, and like cool costumes and like fun things like
and bad costumes and a lot of bad costumes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
which are just as good as good costumes sometimes. The people watching is it's amazing.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. I said I was going to open up a pack of cards. I didn't even explain how this game works. So the way it works is I open up a pack of cards, which is Eldritch Moon. I pick out 2 cards, but I name 3. One of them is fake, and it's up to this drunken idiot to figure out which one of those cards it is. And I got them.
Okay.
You ready, you drunken idiot?
Let's do it.
Okay. So the first one is going to be Death's Door Handle. At 4 colorless mana, it is an artifact at uncommon, and it says tap, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. And then it also says tap, sacrifice a creature, add 2 mana in any combination of colors to your mana pool. The second one is Fury Blade Vampire. It is 1 in a red.
It was just tap, sack, and then add 2 mana of any color to your mana pool?
2 mana in any combination of colors to your mana pool.
Okay. Got it.
And then the second one is Fury Blade Vampire. It is 1 in a red. It is a creature vampire berserker at uncommon. It has trample, and it says at the beginning of combat on your turn, you may discard a card. If you do, Fury Blade Vampire gets +3/+0 until end of turn, and it is a 1/2.
Okay.
The final one is Campaign of Vengeance. It is 3 white black. For an enchantment, at uncommon, and it says, whenever a creature you control attacks, defending player loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. Those are the cards.
All right, what was the mana base on these cards again?
So Death's Door Handle is 4 colorless.
Okay.
Fury Blade Vampire was 1 in a red. And Campaign of Vengeance was 3 white black.
Okay, I know that there's like vampires with the Eldrazi thing because of the stupid lore. Well, Eldrazi like caused vampires to like randomly spawn out of nowhere. Yeah, I know. I've been like when I get want to go to sleep, I'll listen to MTG lore sometimes. so I know that about Eldrazi. So maybe the vampire is real. The artifact, I've never heard of that. It doesn't make mana, but 4-drop is a lot. And then the last one was, how much was the mana on that one? Was like 6 or something.
It's 5.
5. That effect. I'm gonna go with the last one. Yeah, I think the last one is Hoshi.
Campaign.
Yeah, I want to say it's the vampire one, but I'm gonna rely on my stupid lack of lore knowledge that I think that is in the set. So I'm gonna go with the last one. Yeah.
Campaign of Vengeance.
Yeah.
3 white black.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Ah, my God. All right. I win again.
Dude, what was it?
Death's Door Handle.
Nah, I thought that was a stupid name, but it sounded like a card that could be legit. Yeah.
The weird thing was, so this pack, it had a random rare in the middle of the pack, and then it had a rare at the end of the pack.
Oh, that's weird. What?
Yeah, it is weird. So they messed up, but they weren't good at all. It's handwire battlements, which is a land, and it like gives creatures haste, and it also is like one of those modal ones that turns into like if you have 2, it turns into like a super fucking card.
I don't like those. I think that's stupid. But yeah, it's like some weird Yu-Gi-Oh Voltron thing that I don't like.
Basically,
yeah. Okay.
And then the other one is Assembled Alphas, which is it's a wolf. Yeah, it's dumb. That's all.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
That was the horseshit card game. How'd you guys do? Did you guys win that one? Did you win? I mean, I know Apollo didn't. There's no way. Yeah. I mean, he's in the hospital anyways. But even if he wasn't, he wouldn't have got that. There's no way. And I'm at least glad it wasn't the vampire. So my lore knowledge was right.
Nice.
Booyakasha. All right. Anyways, so with that, we will move on to our next phase, which is main phase 2. And for main phase 2 tonight, we're going to talk about. We're
talking about how Commander makes you a worse competitive 1v1 player.
Yes. So, DrunkenDork, why do you think Commander makes you a worse 1v1 player?
So we talked about this briefly last week, and we're just going to go over it a little more extensively. Mythwind actually, I think he's like, you know what, I think he wrote in the show notes, or he sent me a private message on Discord, which if you're watching or listening, you can join our Discord channel. People are talking in there sometimes.
Yeah.
We don't, because we're terrible hosts. But
no, I didn't know people were talking in there. I'm going to get in there now, so I'll definitely hop in. Okay,
sweet. He said he agreed. And so basically, I'm just going to go over kind of what I said last week is, so tempo kind of just doesn't really exist in Commander. And like making tempo plays, I'm not saying you have to be playing a tempo deck. I'm just saying all decks kind of work that way, right? Like removal is like using removal can be a tempo play. Like casting a creature with flash can be a tempo play. Like there's just a lot you can do, and it's hard to do that in a 4-person format, whereas a 1v1 format, you kind of want to be doing stuff like that, right? You want to surprise your opponent, and you want to be like getting ahead of them, like quickly, right? So you can take them out. So yeah, I wanted to go off that. Basically what I'm saying is, like playing Commander, you play things out of sequence, where you're playing, which is hard to take the transition from there to a 1v1 format, because it's really important to sequence your things properly.
Yeah.
Right?
And definitely.
I think that is a hard transition. It's weird to say that because, we've been playing for so long. Commander didn't fucking exist when we used to play. We've been playing only 1v1.
Yeah.
Or like when we played Kitchen Table, sometimes we do 2v2. Like that was always really fun. But like, so we, I felt like it like vice versa. It like has the same effect when you go into Commander, because when we started playing Commander, it was like in 2013 or 2014. It was like we were just trying to win hard, right? Like, that's what we were doing. Yeah. And that also doesn't work in Commander.
It does not.
So yeah, I mean, what do you have to say about this?
So I think one of the things that I really noticed between Commander and 1v1 is in Commander, you're just like at the beginning of the game, it's kind of the same for everyone. They just sit there and they're trying to ramp or set up their thing or whatever, right? No one is being hyper aggressive at the beginning of the game in Commander, and that is not how it is in 1v1, especially in the best of one format. Is like people are coming at your face immediately. You don't have time to like dick around and be like, oh, I'm gonna cultivate and then I'm gonna do this. Like you're dead if you do that. So that's like the major difference is you can't dick around like that. So your entire like format, and like if you're hyper aggressive like that in Commander, you die, because people are like, this dude is trying to kill everybody, so we're gonna waste a little bit. Everyone wastes a little bit of resource on you. You kind of make yourself the arch enemy when you're doing that. So it's a bad way to play there, but that's not how it is in 1v1. You don't have to worry about politics and all that kind of stuff, where it's just a completely different format. The way that it works, you don't get to do as many power plays, I don't think, in 1v1. You can, but it's just rare. You have to like set it up right. You have to have like that targeted removal and all that kind of stuff, or counters or board wipes or something to get you there to be able to do that kind of stuff in the end. You don't really need to do that in Commander. You can just be like, I'm going to put a bunch of crazy, weird, fun stuff in my deck, and maybe I'll get there and be able to use it,
Yeah.
So,
that is correct.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that if you're coming from Commander and trying to be a 1v1 player, it's going to be a weird, brutal kind of shell shock from the like kind of fun decks that you can throw together in Commander, and they're just not going to work in 1v1. Unfortunately, you have to be a pretty tuned deck builder, and you have to be like in tune with the meta too, which I mean you don't need to do in Commander at all. There's like whatever the meta, right? The meta is whatever people decide it is most of the time at the table, right? Unless you're doing like CEDH. Which that is the main exception. I think we need garbage. To mention is like this is only traditional EDH Commander. This isn't CEDH. This isn't 1v1 CEDH. This isn't hyper competitive EDH, because I think those people are just trying to combo off on like turn 2 or some shit like that. Whatever. We don't play that anyway, so we wouldn't know.
We're talking about basic EDH, and that I'm glad you said something. You mentioned is like another reason I thought this before, and I wrote this down, I would have forgot, is in EDH a lot of times what you're trying to do is achieve a goal. You're like, I want this deck to do this fucking thing, whatever that thing is. I want it to do it, and you're almost never doing that in Construct unless you're playing combo. But like the consistency is high in combo, so it's not the same thing, right? And I think so in turn, like also your deck building skills, become a little worse because like you said, you're like, oh, well, I need ramp, I need card draw. Well, yeah, you do kind of need that stuff in 1v1, but if you're playing in a hyper aggro deck, like that's not always necessarily important. It just kind of depends on the meta, and that's the main thing is like we have a meta in Historic where you don't have a meta in Commander, right? And
definitely.
So it's kind of like, it's different, and I will say I was playing nothing but Commander for a long time. And then when I got back into it, when I got into Arena, when it came out, I was absolutely a worse Magic player than I was before, because before I was playing competitive tournaments. Like I top 8'd a TCG, like a big event. Like I was playing a lot. And then when I played Commander, it just made me a fucking far worse player. Like, it just absolutely did. I was, like, playing things out of sequence when I came back to it. I was, like... And I still do it, Some of those... Because I play both formats, I still, like, sometimes I get lazy and I, like, get complacent, I guess. And, like, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm playing 1v1. I'm not playing Commander. I need to play these... I need to sequence these properly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, it's... I mean, and I wonder just like how many people it's the opposite, too, where you go from 1v1 to Commander and then you just get blown out there because you're like trying to, just fucking win hard from the beginning because you're just too into it. So, yeah, I think there's a big shell shock in between those formats. Yeah, that's cool. Well, you got anything else?
Nothing else to say.
No? All right, cool. What about you guys out there? Did any of you guys transition to Arena from Commander? And then, like, what do you think the difference was? Did it hurt you? Do you feel like it made you a better player? You were more ready for Arena, or was it kind of a shell shock for you? Like I imagine it was. Or have any of you tried Commander after starting off in Arena? I think that's another thing is Arena has introduced a lot of new people to Magic, and then maybe they wanted to get into Commander afterwards because they heard it's fun, and then Commander's like a whole nother thing, right? So maybe it wasn't fun because you weren't prepared for it properly. So let us know. We like to hear about that stuff. We like both of those formats. We mainly talk about Historic, but Commander's also close to our hearts. So that was our main phase 2. And after our main phase 2, we go into the end step. And the end step is where we just talk about like something outside of Magic the Gathering that we've been enjoying this week. What DrunkenDork, you got anything, like any new video games or like shows you've been watching that you've been into?
No, I mean, nothing nerdy related, but no, you go.
Okay. No, I mean, I just got the new Xbox, so I'm really excited to try that out. But
nice.
Yes, super excited. But I had started watching Titans because it's on HBO Max, and it's if you've ever seen Teen Titans before, that like cartoon show. So Titans is like a more adult version of them, and it is brutal, dude. I thought it was gonna be like, oh, this is gonna suck. My brother kept telling me to watch it. And then I just saw it was on there. I was like, fine, I'll watch the first episode. And there's like blood and they're killing people and there's like sex and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay. So, I mean, the one girl is pretty whiny in the show, but it's okay. It's keeping my attention for right now. So I like Robin. And so I like DC stuff every once in a while. It's always darker. And it's nice to like actually see a show that's being dark. DC is supposed to be dark. Make the show dark, right? So, like, unlike that, the CW stuff, which is just like way too campy and
it's so bad,
cheesy for me. I can't get into it. So it's a nice, like, refreshing change of pace to see a DC show actually show like blood and violence and like the darkness that's in Robin, because Batman's a lunatic. He's a grown man who dresses up in a bat costume and beats the shit out of people, So like you have to be an absolute madman to do that. So it's nice to see like, them actually showing like the real lunacy in these people and the rage that they deal with in there and stuff.
Like they flesh them out as like real people rather than like comic book characters.
Yeah,
like how a real person would interact. That's why I liked, I'm going to go on a quick little tangent, but that's why I liked, what the fuck was that show called, or that movie, with the big blue naked guy in
Oh,
it.
yeah. The Watchmen. Yeah, the Watchmen.
That's why
yeah.
I like that show so much, because they really
Yeah.
they're real people who are trying to be superheroes. And I think like that's such an interesting dynamic, and I love it. And I think
Yeah.
like, especially when you go down the dark path of like, they're just going around fucking people up. Like, right? Like it's great.
Yeah, it's great, but that you got to be like an absolute madman to actually do that.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of the Marvel stuff just kind of glosses over that. They're like, "Oh, I have my problems," but it's like, no, you got deep problems if you're like getting deep into that. So that was I appreciated that at least about it. It's not the best show, but at least it's a refreshing take on the DC universe. So that was it. That's all I got this week. Yeah, so that was our end step. And then for cleanup, we just go into some quick social media stuff. If you guys want to follow us, we will add all of our areas where you can follow us on social media, our Discord channel that you guys should join, and all the other things, YouTube, if you want to listen to us on Spotify, all that kind of stuff, we're on there too. And then, hey, if you guys want to like and subscribe, I'm told that's YouTube likes that apparently. Yeah, and there's some bell icon, I guess, that you're supposed to click. Right? That's what you're supposed to do.
I've heard,
Do the YouTube thing, por favor. And then comments are awesome, man. I usually don't comment on videos, but it's great hearing from you guys, and I like responding to you. You guys have some really good stuff that you come at us with. So that was it for our cleanup. Check out all the stuff and the things. And that was our cleanup phase. Now we move into the most psychotic phase of our show, where one of us had a bad idea one time of pounding our drinks at the end of the episode, and somehow, like true blue alcoholics, we're still doing it. So to all of you out there in the internets, and to you, Drunken Dork, and to Apollo and his pink sock butthole.
Oh no. No.
Yes.
Don't look that up, but look it up. Look it up. All right.
Cheers, everybody.
All right. Cheers.
Oh man, smooth. Woo. Oh, smooth.